what they claim that the Bible has about the Trinity. And I will refute that later on. Sunday. What is Sunday? When do the Christians worship? When do the Christians worship? Sunday. Sunday was kept hallowed in honor of Mithras, the sun called Mithras Solis Invictus. This has produced our popular name for the first day of the week, Sunday. The pattern resting on Sunday comes to us directly through what is called the Blue Laws, enforced first throughout the Roman Empire, then through the Western traditions into our New World. The edicts was initiated by Constantine I, forbidding officials, artisans, and merchants from engaging in any work on Sunday to give honor to the sun, Mithras. And when was he born? December 25th. When they say Jesus was born?
December 25th.
December 25th. I say, prove it to me. I want you to prove it to me. Can you prove to me that Jesus was born on December 25th? I don't think so. That's why I say the Christians follow a paganistic Jesus, not the true Jesus. That's why I call them the Antichrist. Those who reject Christ, those who contradict Christ. If they read the Bible, what Jesus said, then they won't have any problems because that was Islam. Anything that goes with the Quran, anything of the Bible that goes with the Quran is Islam. But anything that contradicts, I say, is paganism. Go to Luke chapter 2, verse 8. What does it say? Luke 2, verse 8. And brought forth for her firstborn son, and wrapped him in a swaddling cloths, and laid him into a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now there were in the same country shepherds, living out in the same fields, keeping watch over the flock by night. Why would they leave the flock in the fields at December 25th? Why? If you check the place where you say Jesus is located at, where he preached, where he was, if he was born on December 25th, the flags that were in the field at that time would freeze to death. And besides, there's nothing bearing on the fields. So the shepherd is a fool to send his flocks to the field. So obviously, if the field is barren, that's proof that it has to be midsummer, not midwinter. So prove to me that Jesus was born December 25th. I want some proof. And you can never prove it to me, because Jesus Christ was never born on December 25th. Actually, you're copying paganism. December 25th was observed as Mithras' birthday, called Natalis Invictus, the rebirth of the renter sun unconquered. Initiates had to undergo a ritual sprinkling, a fusion, which involved being under a bull or Taurus, which being cut to death, allowed the initiate to become saturated with blood. The custom of bloody bullfights, seen in Spain, harken back to this cult. Okay, let's skip down to what? The father stood at one end of the oblong room performing mysterious blood rituals. There was an indoor altar at his end on which a victim hostia. Please check out the video. Does all religions does it lead to Islam? And also, what are the origins of Christianity? You'll get a bigger picture about this hostia thing. And you'll see why the Christians are supposed to call Christmas Xmas. Because it's not the birth of Christ. They really want to say it's the death of Christ. Christ Mass. Mass is a Catholic term for death. So the death of Christ. How can you say Jesus was born on December 25th when you're saying he's the death of Christ? Does that make sense to you? why would you believe in Christmas? Mass means death. And you're saying that you believe he's born on December 25th, but you're trying to say that he died that day. Does that make sense? Look, I'll leave it to you to judge. With sacrifice, they had a sun-shaped wafer disc like the Egyptians, and they assembled, knelt, sat, and stood in unison. So, I want to hit on something. Since I've shown you the similarities between the doctrines of Mithraism and Christianity, and how they have a pope in Mithraism and how they have a pope in Christianity, now I would like to start from the popes. Because it was through Paul that after 354 years, Paul's epistles Constantine used to fund the Trinity, atonement, and all this other stuff. And it was through the help of the popes that implemented other paganistic rituals from Mithraism to Christianity. But I'll give you a historical record. I want to start from the Roman Catholics. Why? Because the first thing I want to start with is because that was the first real Christianity, well, fake Christianity. That's the first fake real Christianity, the Catholics. And from the Catholics broke into Protestants during Martin Luther time. Not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther. But let me just read something for you before I do that. So what were they? Pagan or Christian? A long series of analogies exists between him, Mithras, and him, Jesus. Mithras was born on December 25th in a stable to a virgin, surrounded by shepherds who brought gifts. He was venerated on the day of the sun, Sunday. He bore a halo around his head. He celebrated a Last Supper. Did Jesus have a Last Supper too? Didn't he? He did. With his faithful followers. And before returning to his Father, ascended into heaven. He was not said to have died, but to have ascended to heaven, from where he will return in the last days. So he died first, resurrected, then ascended to heaven. And they believed in baptism, sending good to paradise and to evil to hell. And also, they celebrated a ceremony corresponding to the Catholic Mass, during which they consumed consecrated bread and wine in memory of this Last Supper of Mithras. You know, the Catholics have the bread is the body and the blood is the wine. That's what they believe it is. That the bread that they eat is the body of Christ, and that the blood is the wine of blood of Christ. In memory of the Last Supper of Mithras. Can't you see they copy so wholesale? I hope you can see that, because that's something so clear. Okay. Now, since I talk about Mithraism having a pope and Christianity have a pope, I would like to explain a little bit about the pope. The Mithraic Patrum was highest priest of this sun god. The word popes comes from the word meaning father. The pope is the bishop of Rome, and thereby the world leader of the Catholic Church. The word comes from the Latin word papa, which means father. He is also the head of the Vatican, the tiny sovereign city-state within Rome. Because the pope is the head of the Catholic Church, there's a connection between the office and the Pater Patrum, father of the Mithras cult. The original Catholic encyclopedia states, the fathers conducted, meaning the chiefs, the fathers conducted the worship, the chief of the fathers, the chief of the fathers was a pope who always lived at Rome. This was Mithras we're talking about. And was called the Pater Patrum, or the Pater Patras, or Papa, acronym of the Pater Patrum. The chief of the fathers, a sort of pope who always lived at Rome, was called a Pater Patrum, a Pater Patras, who always lived at Rome, was and the members below the degree of the pater were called brothers. The social distinction were forgotten in Mithraic unity. Hence, St. Peter has to be always deemed as the first pope without caveat per tradition. But historical facts indicate otherwise. They claim that Peter was the first pope. But the thing is, Peter could never have been the first pope. Why? Because Peter became pope when? AD 30. When was Jesus around? Still AD 30. Why do you need a pope when Jesus was still around there? Why do you need a pope when all the disciples were there? A pope is somebody who's supposed to be guarding the teachings of Christianity. Why would you need somebody guarding the teaching of Christianity when Jesus was still there? The foundation of your faith, Jesus. It doesn't make sense. You have to admit it doesn't make sense. So clear. The Pater Patrum is an acronym for Papa, which is Pope. And both Mithraism and Christianity has a Pope. Now, look at this article. Mithras and Jesus, two sides to the same coin. On 384 AD, Vetius Augurius Praetextatus, the last Papa, acronym of the word Pater Patrum, equals Father's Father, of the court of Mithras, died in Rome. His name and his religious and political appointments are written on the basement of St. Peter's Basilica. Together with the long list of Roman senators spanning from 305 to 390, that's in the 4th BC, AD. The one thing that they had in common was that they were all patres of Mithras. As many as 9 amongst them had the supreme title of the Pater Patrum. Clear evidence that it was here inside the Vatican that the supreme leader of the Mithraic organization resided. At the site of the most sacred basilica of Christianity, erected by Constantine the Great. I call him the Ungreat. You have to agree with me, the Ungreat. In 320 AD, for at least 70 years, the supreme leader of two religions that were always supposed to be the competitors, if not sworn enemies, lived peacefully and in perfect harmony, side by side. It was the same Praetextatus, as perfect of the town, who defended Damascus against his opponents on 367 and confirmed him as Bishop of Rome. Praetextatus often declared that he willingly had accepted to be baptized. If the see, not the sight see, this is a different see, meaning in authority-wise, the see of St. Peter's was offered to him. Following his death, however, the opposite happened. The title of Pater Patrum, today we will say by default, fell upon the Massa's successor, the Bishop Siricius, who was the real first in church history, the Catholic Church history, the first pope to assume the title Papa. Together with it, he took also upon himself a long series of prerogatives, titles, symbols, and objects and possessions that passed en masse from Mithraism to Christianity. I hope you're listening. Paul transformed Christianity to paganism. Constantine made it more pagan. Then afterwards he spoke, making even more pagan. So it's pagan, it's becoming more pagan, and then it's becoming extremely pagan. But it was a true handover from the Mithraic Pope to the Christian Pope that we can understand only in the light of what happened the year before. How come they made it a Mithraic Pope? All the time was Mithraism. How come they make it a Christian Pope now? All of a sudden. Because the year before, in 383, on that date, the Senate almost unanimously voted for the abolition of paganism and all its simple